From the PEP Radio Newsroom, these are the stories we are covering at this hour. The White House says Trump tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China will come Saturday. No word on exemptions. President Donald Trump will put in place 25% tariffs on imports from Canada and Mexico and 10% tariffs on goods from China effective on Saturday, the White House said, but it provided no word on whether there would be any exemptions to the measures that could result in swift price increases to U.S. customers. Trump had been threatening the tariffs to ensure greater cooperation from the countries on stopping illegal immigration and the smuggling of chemicals used for fentanyl. But he has also pledged to use tariffs to boost domestic manufacturing and raise revenues for the federal government. Starting tomorrow, those tariffs will be in place. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt told reporters these are promises made and promises kept by the president. The tariffs carry both political and economic risks for Trump, who is just 2 weeks into his second term. Many voters backed the Republican on the promise that he could tamp down inflation, but the possibility of tariffs could trigger higher prices and potentially disrupt the energy, auto, lumber, and agriculture sectors. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said Friday that Canada is ready to respond if Trump goes ahead with the tariffs, but he did not give details. We're ready with a response, a purposeful, forceful, but reasonable, immediate response, he said. It's not what we want, but if he moves forward, we will also act. Trudeau said tariffs would have disastrous consequences for the U.S., putting American jobs at risk and causing prices to rise. Trudeau reiterated that less than 1% of the fentanyl and illegal crossings into the United States come from Canada. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said Friday that Mexico has maintained a dialogue with Trump's team since before he returned to the White House, but she emphasized that Mexico has a Plan A, Plan B, Plan C for what the United States government decides. Now, it is very important that the Mexican people know that we are always going to defend the dignity of our people. We are always going to defend the respect of our sovereignty and a dialogue between equals, as we have always said, without subordination, Sheinbaum said. In other news, conservatives are now blaming the D.C. crash on a trans woman who had nothing to do with it. Conservatives started spreading a rumor yesterday that the military helicopter that crashed into American Eagle Flight 5342 on Wednesday night around 9 p.m. was being piloted by a transgender woman as part of a larger effort on the right to blame the tragedy on historically oppressed minorities, even in the absence of any facts to back that narrative. And now the trans woman at the center of the false internet rumors is speaking out and asking for help to report and stamp out the lies. On Wednesday night, the U.S. had its first major commercial airline crash since 2009 when American Eagle Flight 5342 from Wichita, Kansas collided with a Black Hawk helicopter near Ronald Reagan's Washington National Airport in Washington, D.C. There were no survivors among the plane's more than 60 passengers and 4 crew members. While an investigation is currently underway, and people involved in transportation policy are pointing out the funding and staffing issues aviation safety administrators have faced since Donald Trump took office, the right has been trying to blame the crash on minorities. Trump held a press conference where he claimed that diversity was to blame because former President Joe Biden allegedly hired people of color and women who weren't qualified. When pressed for any evidence of this, he said simply that he knew because I have common sense. Online, someone who goes by Fake Gay Politics blamed Joe Ellis, a member of the Virginia National Guard who is also transgender. Ellis is a helicopter pilot who was deployed to Iraq in 2011 and earned the Air Medal for acts of heroism or meritorious achievement while participating in aerial flight. The pilot of the Black Hawk has been identified as Chief Warrant Officer Joe Ellis, a transgender woman, the Post stated. Joe Ellis served in the Virginia National Guard for 15 years and transitioned while serving as a pilot. Joe has been making radicalized anti-Trump statements on socials. The misinformation quickly spread on social networks, and the story was even picked up by some news websites, according to Pink News. To learn more about these stories, check out our page on Blue Sky at PEP Radio. That's the news at this hour. Now back to more music on PEP Radio.